Welcome to my channel Crafting Matt. In this video I will show you how to install original Klipper to the FLSUN V400 3D printer. Klipper is a firmware for your 3D printer similar to Marlin. It is controlling the entire print, forwarding the necessary data to the 3D printer mainboard and allowing to calibrate your printer in the first place. You may know that the V400 already ships with Klipper from factory, so why would one want to install Klipper again? The reason is simple. FLSUN developed its own version of Klipper and removed a lot of functionality of the original Klipper project. But your speeder pad can perfectly run also the original Klipper version. This should hopefully increase performance and accuracy. I am looking for more accuracy, as you may know from my last video. And I mentioned already in the comments that updating to original Klipper is my next step to improve. But take note, doing this update will void your warranty and you cannot ask the official FLSUN support for help because they don't recommend this procedure in the first place. So if you want to update, do this at own risk. The update itself could be done within 2 or 3 hours if everything is well prepared and running to plan. I had a few problems and I have read plenty of comments in several forums making me think that I was not the only one with issues. A good part of the brave men and women who dare even surrender and simply install FLSUN Klipper again. Thank God there is an article at GitHub, which I followed pretty exactly, and I tried to document the whole process in this video, especially the difficulties I had. So, if you still want to try on your own, watch this video and then check GitHub. I put a link in the description below. At this point, full credits to the GitHub member Cyrill Guislain aka Guilouz. He did this manual with some help from Lloyd and Watteel Pascal. The article also provides the binaries needed. The first glance may intimidate. Maybe the second glance does not increase confidence. The V400 speeder pad is basically an all-winner R818 SoC running with an Ubuntu 20.04 operating system. Klipper is then installed on top of that. If you are familiar with Linux, you have an advantage. If not, you just go step by step, maybe not knowing what you are doing there. I am not a Linux geek, but I have some general software experience as I am a professional software engineer. A manual like this cannot keep me from trying. Decide on your own if you want to follow. In my opinion, it is worth the effort. But now, let's start with the preparation. My recommendation is to create a download folder where you can put all stuff you need. You will need the installer for the Raspberry Pi imager already in the beginning of this project. The imager is installed on your Windows PC, but versions for Linux and Mac exist too. You can also add a shortcut to start the executable. You will need the Klipper FLSUN speeder pad main.zip from GitHub. Just download and unzip it. It contains several important setup files. To connect to the speeder pad during the installation and setup process, you will need a terminal software like MobaXterm, which I downloaded and used in the portable version. I moved MobaXterm to my system folder meanwhile, because it comes in handy also for other purposes, but I have added a shortcut in this folder for quick start. Setting a static IP to your speeder pad is one of my recommendations, but it's optional. If you want to do that too, then you need the speeder pad files archive. Again, download and unzip. The download you definitely need is the speeder pad version 1.2 restoration archive, which provides the initial software to flash the speeder pad in order to provide root access, which you do not have with the original factory setup. You will also need a 32 GB micro SD card to flash the speeder pad. Additionally, I bought a card with less capacity as I had issues to flash my printer mainboard with the 32 GB card. More to this topic later. When starting from scratch, you first have to unzip the speeder pad restoration file. Take note, it is a 7-zip archive. Then you have to start the Raspberry Pi Imager software. On the Choose Operating System button, you scroll down to the bottom and select Use Custom. Then navigate to the folder with the extracted speeder pad restoration file and select it. For storage, you choose your 32 GB micro SD card and then you just click Write. As the following process does not really show something interesting, I speed this one up. I did not want to cut it completely so you can see the application behavior. As you see, it takes close to 9 minutes on my PC with that particular card. It could be faster or slower on your PC, but that's it, the card is ready. Flashing the speeder pad is again straightforward. Unplug any USB plug which is still connected. And disconnect the power cord. Then insert the 32 GB micro SD card to the according port on top of the pad as shown here. Go ahead and plug in the power cord again. The flashing process takes time again, so I will speed this one up. But I leave the port in so you can see the application behavior. After 5 minutes I started to be worried as the progress bar did not move. But finally it finished close to 8 minutes. You need to unplug the power cord once more and remove the micro SD card from the pad. After plugging it in again, it already starts on the restoration build. And here again, patience is required. At some point of time it shows up again with the message that it's connecting or trying to connect. But this is not what you are looking for. So more patience. Which I also do not have, obviously. But we are waiting for an error message. Yeah, this is it. If this message is popping up, Then you can go to Menu and Network, and you can select your LAN which you want to connect to, and enter the credentials. Depending on your router, you can still connect to your Mainsail web interface. For me, the speeder pad was still available at the same network address like before. So I launched MobaXterm to connect to the speeder pad. Click on the top left button Session and then select SSH. You need to enter the IP address of the speeder pad, but remove the http:// Then you need to tick the specify username and type pi. And you can start the session by clicking OK. There's a warning window, you can accept this one. I cannot see it, but I'm typing the password FLSUN here. It is normal that the cursor won't move. Another pop-up, so you can save the password, which I decided against in the end. And now you are connected. Personally, I do not see a reason why I should change the user password, but if you want to, check the manual at GitHub. It is the very first step you can do here. To update Ubuntu, you need to be connected by MobaXterm and run some command lines. For all this copy and paste action, this MobaXterm function comes in quite handy. You can select what MobaXterm is doing when a right click is detected. I have chosen to paste the content from my clipboard. So I copy the command from my editor and paste it without the risk of any typo. And now you go ahead and copy and paste all the command lines from the GitHub manual. The update takes approximately 4 minutes depending on your internet connection. It could be faster or slower. I did not speed up here because there is a lot of output happening, and maybe you want to know how it should look like when it works. At that point of time, I want to remind you to the chapters I did. You can also just jump over it to the next chapter. Changing the time zone again requires some command lines. You can check the current setting of the time zone first. And if you want to change it, you enter this. And on any sudo command you need to also enter the password. And here is a little bit of a different approach to set the region. It looks nearly like a graphical user input. You select the region which is your best match. For me, this is Europe. Then you select the best city match. As I am from Germany, for me this is Berlin. Now don't get confused by this output looking like broken. It is not. Just go ahead feeding the command lines. In this case we check the current setting of the time zone. And it is changed. And it's correct now. As the previous step did not require a reboot, you just can go ahead. For me, the Wi-Fi location was already correctly set to Germany. I assume that was done with the Ubuntu updates before. But if you need to set it, then you can display a list in which you can search for the proper country code for your country and then set it according to the procedure in GitHub. And this is the list. But as it was okay for me, I just skipped on that one. I only executed the reboot. Now we want to get rid of the FLSUN builds before we install original Klipper. For that purpose we download a little tool named Guilouz. Then we launch Guilouz, and this is how it looks like. Now in the first step we want to remove programs, so we type 3 and hit enter. And basically then we uninstall the programs in the order mentioned in the GitHub article. Again, this takes some time, but I just did not speed it up so you can see the proper output. Now we want to install the real thing, and we need Guilouz again, so we launch it. This time we want to install, so we type 1 and hit enter. And Klipper of course is first, so again I type 1 and hit enter. So here I should choose for the Python option, I choose for the recommended one and hit again 1 and enter. And another one 1 and enter, because I want to go for one Klipper instance. Now there is a lot of output again, and even if this is really the longest part, again I do not speed up, so you can see the proper output. Let yourself be reminded again for the chapters which I added to this video, so you can jump over it if it takes too long. Yeah, and maybe also another hint here. A good part of the time is also consumed by downloading, so that could be considerably faster for you. After Klipper is downloaded and installed, Moonraked is next, followed by Mainsail. So follow the description and it should be fine. A simple procedure. Go to your Mainsail web interface, choose the Machine tab and select the Moonraked.conf file. Add the text at the end of the file by copy and paste. And hit the Save and Restart button. And you are done. Before you update, open the top of your printer and take a look. You should see a mainboard like this. Depending on what you find here, you have to set up your firmware later. My printer is an MKS Robin Nano V2.1 clone. Additionally, I wanted to know exactly the processor identification because this is also needed later. And my processor is a GD32F303. Now it's time to use this information. Klipper has a function to create the firmware. Type make menu config in the Klipper directory. Set up your menu config according to your findings and according to the recommendations in the GitHub manual. I have to enable low-level configuration options. And after that, I need to choose STM32 as a microcontroller architecture. And according to the manual, I should choose STM32F103. You remember that my processor was a 32F303, which is not in the list, but I found out it is okay to use the 103 instead, as the 303 is only a refresh, but technically nearly identical. The following options I leave disabled. And for the bootloader offset, I select 28 kilobytes. The clock reference is 8 MHz. And the communication reference needs to be set to PB11, PB10. The baud rate is 250K. And the GPIO pins I do not change. So I hit the Q key and the Y to save the configuration. After that, you have to follow the manual again, several commands to enter. And once the output is finished, on the left side of MobaXterm, you navigate to the Klipper directory. And inside that, you go to the out directory. And in the out directory, you can find your bin file. For me, this is the Robin Nano 35.bin, and I download that to my desktop. And here it is. And the only thing left to do is I have to put it to my micro SD card. And you're done. To flash your printer, power it down. Then add the SD card from the previous step to the card slot of your mainboard and turn on the printer. For a successful flash process, the FLSUN branding needs to light up once, light up twice, and then flicker some seconds and remain on. This did not work for me in the first place, and my solution to a fail is explained at the end of this video. You need to upload content from the Klipper FLSUN SpeederPad main folder, which you unzipped during preparations. You need to localize the proper configuration files for you. For me, those are in the MKS Robin Nano 2.0 stock folder. Then, in your Mainsail, go to the Machine tab and in the Config Files tile, click the Upload button and navigate to the files you localized before. Select them, open, and upload. After a restart, you are done. If you decided to go for 3 Klipper instances, this process needs more activity. Check the GitHub manual for details. After this step, Mainsail will finally connect to your printer. You need to retrieve the current serial by running this command line. Copy the output. You are looking for the info after the last dash. In my case, the info was the same as shown in the GitHub manual, which confused me somehow. But either way, you go for the Machine tab again and you load the printer.cfg file. You're looking for a line at the end of the file. For me it was line 334. You need to replace the axis with the string you retrieved from the last step. Then hit save and restart. After reconnection, you can see new tiles in your Mainsail, which is now connected. This is not mandatory, but I like if things are working as intended, so I did that too. Basically, you change to the Moonraked scripts directory and run a script with the according command line. It is a sudo and needs the password again. After the script was executed, you need to reboot. And after the reboot, you can go to Mainsail, but yeah, we need some patience now. In Mainsail, we go to the Machine tab and we open Moonraked.conf. And at the end of the file, we add those 2 lines. And we hit save and restart, and we are done. Again, this is optional. I recommend doing it. Fire up Guilouz again and go to the install function by typing 1 and hit enter. After that, type 11 because you want to install Crowsnest. For one instance, this is pretty much all you have to do. You just wait to complete, which takes a while. If you want to add Webcam support for more than one instance, then I recommend checking the GitHub manual again. It is a little bit more effort. At the end of the process, you are asked if you want to use the changes, and there is a N by default saying no. You have to override it with Y for yes. And after that, it will be rebooted automatically. It needs to reconnect again. But once that is done, you can go to the Machine tab in Mainsail, and you can open Moonraked.conf file. Here it is. And then you have to add the text as it's shown in the GitHub manual to the end of the file. So just copy, check for the end of the file, and again hit save and restart. And reload. And after it's back, there will be additional Crowsnest entries. One entry is bottom right. Yeah, this one, Crowsnest. And there is another one for the updater. And there is one more thing to do. You need to update the clipperscreen.conf file. So you select that. And you have to uncomment the already existing line by removing the hashtag. Hit save and restart, and you're done. This is not mandatory, but I recommend doing it. It is just a few command lines, again in MobaXterm. It's pretty straightforward. And after a reboot, you are done again. This is the procedure for Cura. Basically check on the printers, and within the V400 profile check the machine settings, and again verify that the start code as proposed by the GitHub manual is the same as the start code currently in use. I was not 100% sure, and therefore I just copy and pasted the part which I wanted to make sure. The end print was same anyway, so I didn't do anything here. And if you have something else than Cura, then again check the GitHub manual. There is a proposal for pretty much any slicer. First of all, the whole project is very well documented already at GitHub. But there have been two issues which have at least slowed me down significantly. First of all, I had an issue with the speeder pad, which did no longer use the IP address it usually used. I could not reconnect to Mainsail anymore. Second, I could not successfully flash the MKS Nano mainboard with the 32GB micro SD card I had. I will show you the detailed issues and my solutions now. Somewhere in the middle of the update process I wanted to check Mainsail, but it was no longer available. Already the original Klipper was working with DHCP, which maybe is convenient for anybody who does not want to fiddle around with IP addresses. I do not like it for several reasons and wanted to install a static IP already when I started my V400 for the very first time after assembly. But with the FLSUN implementation this is not possible. So I checked the speeder pad and it showed me that it did no longer use 192.168.2.175. It now used 192.168.0.10. This is a subnet which is not even used by my router. To reconnect to my speeder pad, I added an alternative IP address to my PC. If you need to do that too, here is how you do that. First, open the control panel and check for the Network and Sharing Center. Then go for the Change Adapter settings and select the network NIC you are using to connect and open Properties. Scroll down to the IP version 4 and again go for Properties. Directly go for Advanced. The dialog shows the network addresses in use, and by clicking Add you can add any other IP address. Your NIC needs an IP address from the same subnet than the printer. I specified 0.101 here, and you can reconnect again. But I wanted to set a static IP from the proper network, therefore I needed to enable root access in order to be able to set the static IP later. So again some sudo command lines to do that. You need to define a password for root and you need to confirm it. And additionally you need to modify the SSH config file. It opens in an editor. You have to navigate with the arrow keys to the according line permit root login. Remove the hashtag so the line is active and replace the prohibit password text by yes. When done, press Ctrl and X to exit, and when prompted type a Y for yes, because you want to save it. And the name, you do not change it, you just hit enter. After that you have to restart the service. And then you can try to log on as root. So select this one, type the password, and you are logged on as root. Finally, we are getting there. You need a root session, otherwise you cannot create a directory in the root folder. As I did this before, I have an error here, but it will work for you. In the MobaXterm on the left side, navigate to root and to the newly created folder speederpad. And in the speederpad files folder from the preparation, open the Network Manager All file and change the addresses to what you need. Take note, you need 2 name servers, and for a full subnet you need the notation -24 as you can see at addresses. If you do not follow the conventions, it will not work. So copy the modified file by drag and drop to the speederpad folder. Here it is. And run some more command lines to apply the net plan. Take note that the GitHub manual mentions to restart the speederpad. I did a power cycle thinking that this is also a restart, but it didn't work. You really need to restart it. I saw this flashing pattern when I flashed the mainboard of my printer for the first time. I did not know that lighting up once, then lighting up twice and remain on does indicate a failed flashing attempt. So what you want to see is this. Same one time on, two times on, but after that some flickering going on for a couple of seconds. After this, you will also notice that the file on the microSD card was renamed from bin postfix to cur postfix. If it still is bin postfix after your flashing attempt, it is also a clear indication that it did not work. For me, it did not work to do the flashing with my 32 GB microSD card. I did even resize the partitions on the 32 GB card, so it only utilized 8 GB or 4 GB. It simply did not work for me. So I bought a card with considerably less capacity. Mine had only 256 MB and I formatted it to 2048 bytes block size, despite the GitHub manual asking for 4096 bytes. It worked for me with this setting. Well, as already said more than once, the process is well documented, but maybe it is not flawless for you. Decide on your own if you want to do that. In my opinion, it is worth to do it. Creating the footage for this video and documenting everything in a proper way ended up in a video of more than 1 hour duration. I did not expect that. My plan is now to calibrate my printer and again providing some footage for you to follow. The interesting part will most likely be the use of the ADXL345 module to calibrate the input shaper. If this video was interesting for you, please like. It was a hell of a work to do. And maybe we see in my next video. Bye bye.